Chapter 25, Part 2. Almost touching his knee lay a man. He was dead. Torak flattened himself against the ice wall. If Wolf hadn't warned him, he would have touched the corpse, and to touch the dead is to risk terrible danger. When the souls leave the body, they can be angry, confused, or simply unwilling to embark on the death journey. If one of the living strays too close, the disembodied souls may try to possess it or follow it home. All this rushed through Torak's mind as he stared at the dead man. His lips looked chiselled from ice. His flesh was waxen yellow. Snow had drifted into his nostrils in a cruel parody of breath, but his ice-filmed eyes were open, staring at something Torak couldn't see. Something that was cradled in the crook of his dead arm. Wolf seemed unafraid, even drawn to the corpse. He lay with his muzzle between his paws, gazing at it steadily. The dead man had worn his long brown hair loose, except for a single lock at the temple, matted with red ochre. Torak thought of the Red Deer woman at Finkedin's clan meet. She'd worn her hair the same way. Had this man been of the same clan? The same clan as Torak's own mother? He felt the stirrings of pity. What was the man's name? What had he been seeking out here, and how had he died? Then Torak saw that on the brown forehead a shaky circle had been daubed in red ochre. The thick winter parka had been wrenched open and another circle drawn on the breastbone. Torak guessed that if he were reckless enough to remove the heavy furred boots, he'd find a similar mark on each heel. Death marks. The man must have felt death coming for him and put on his own marks so that his souls would stay together after he died. That must be why he'd left the slab ajar too, to set the souls free. "You were brave," said Torak out loud. "You didn't flinch from death." He remembered the figure he'd glimpsed in the snow. Had that been one of the souls setting out on his final journey? Could you see souls? Torak didn't know. "Be at peace," he told the corpse. "May your souls find their rest. Stay together." He bowed his head for his dead kinsman. Wolf sat up, pricking his ears at the corpse. Torak was startled. Wolf seemed to be listening. Torak leaned closer. The dead man gazed calmly at the thing cradled in his arm. But when Torak saw what it was, he was even more puzzled. It was an ordinary lamp, a smooth oval of red sandstone about half the size of his palm, with a shallow bowl to hold the fish oil, and a groove for the wick of twisted beard moss. The wick had long since burned away, and all that remained of the oil was a faint greyish stain. Beside him, Wolf gave a high, soft whine. His hackles were up, but he didn't seem frightened. That whine had been a greeting. Torak frowned. Wolf had acted like that before, in the cave below the Thunderfalls. His eyes returned to the dead man. He pictured his final moments, curled in the snow, watching the small bright flame as his own life flickered and sank. Suddenly Torak knew. Coldest of all, the darkest light. The darkest light is the last light a man sees before he dies. He had found the third piece of the Nanook. Gripping the rushlight in one hand, Torak untied the raven-skin pouch with the other and tipped the box into the snow. "Oof!" warned Wolf. Torak slipped off the hair cord and lifted the lid. The river eyes stared blindly up at him, nestled in the curve of the black stone tooth. There was just enough room beside them for the lamp, almost, he thought, as if Fred had known how big to make the box. With numb fingers, he pulled on one mitten and leaned over the dead man, being careful not to touch him, and lifted the lamp clear. It was only when he'd got it safely boxed and back in the pouch that he realised he'd been holding his breath. It was time to go and find Wren. Quickly, he tied the pouch to his belt, but as he turned to push the slab aside, something made him stop. He had all 3 pieces of the Nanook, here in this snow cave where he was safe. If you get caught in a snowstorm, Wren had said, you dig yourself a snow cave and wait till it stops. If he ignored that now, if he braved the wrath of the ice river to look for her, he probably wouldn't survive. The Nanook would be buried with him. The entire forest would be doomed. But if he didn't, Wren might die. Torak sat back on his heels. Wolf watched him intently, his amber eyes quite uncub-like. The rushlight wavered in Torak's hand. He couldn't just leave her. She was his friend. But could he? Should he risk the forest to save her? As never before, he longed for Far. Far would know what to do. But Far isn't here, he told himself. You've got to decide. You, Torak, by yourself. Wolf tilted his head to one side, waiting to see what Torak would do. What would you do? Would you stay in the snow cave and keep the 3 pieces of the Nanook safe so that you could defeat the demon bear? Or would you risk it all to save Wren? I think we might find out in the next chapter. Bye-bye.